Have you ever felt the room turn cold after someone's words cut too deep? One careless jab, one sly accusation, and suddenly every eye waits for your reaction like wolves circling a wounded deer. Your chest tightens, your pride burns, and the urge to defend feels irresistible. But what if that very reaction is the snare? Stay with me. Let's look at what real power sounds like when it says nothing at all. As we step into the first chapter, picture this: a crowded hall. A single voice rises. A sly remark cuts through the air like a blade dipped in poison. Faces turn, eyes pierce. The silence before your reply feels heavier than stone. You feel it, don't you? That tightness in the chest. That restless fire in the mind that screams to explain, to defend, to say, that's not true, but that's the trap, the oldest one. Because the moment you justify yourself, you kneel. The battlefield stops being about truth. It becomes about perception, and perception belongs to whoever defines the frame. The moment you speak to prove, you've already agreed that their judgment matters more than your own. You've stepped into their arena, playing by their rules. I've seen it happen 100 times. A man accused wrongly, cruelly, rises to explain himself. His voice trembles with reason, his logic flawless, yet something feels off, because the moment he begins defending, he looks guilty. The crowd doesn't hear clarity, they hear desperation. That's how power flips, silently, invisibly. Epictetus warned us, it's not events that disturb us, but our judgment about them. When you rush to defend, you reveal your judgment, that the insult matters, that their voice defines your worth. You hand over your peace in exchange for the illusion of being understood. But understanding is not freedom. Silence is. Silence is not retreat. It's mastery. It's the weight that crushes arrogance without a sound. Think of a lion accused of being dangerous. Does it issue a statement? Does it explain its nature? No. It simply stares, calm, unmoved, absolute. And in that stillness, fear blooms in the hearts of those who challenged it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best answer to anger is silence." He knew what few dare to learn. Silence unsettles those who feed on reaction. It's not weakness. It's a mirror that reflects another's noise right back at them. So the next time someone throws their poison at you, don't catch it. Let it fall, because the one who defends kneels. The one who holds still commands. From here, we move into an even deeper lesson, the predator's silence, where the absence of words becomes the sharpest weapon of all. Moving into the second chapter, picture the silence of a lion resting in tall grass. The wind moves gently, sunlight glints on its golden eyes fixed far beyond the horizon. It has been called dangerous, accused, judged, misunderstood. Yet it does not roar. It does not explain. It simply exists. And that stillness alone carries more weight than 1,000 speeches. That is the silence of power, the kind that commands without sound. Seneca once wrote, "The greatest remedy for anger is delay." Silence is that delay, sharpened into discipline. It is the refusal to feed another's fire with your breath. Because silence is not emptiness, it's a blade. It cuts deeper than any argument because it forces others to sit with their own words, to feel their own noise echo back at them. Now imagine a crowded room. Someone throws an accusation at you. The air stiffens, eyes turn. Everyone waits for your defense, but you stay still. You breathe. You let the silence stretch. The accuser shifts, growing uneasy, and in that discomfort, the power shifts. The Stoics understood this truth. To defend is to accept another's judgment. To remain silent is to rise above it. Silence isn't withdrawal, it's direction. I once saw this in a crowded hall. A man was called arrogant. He didn't flinch or justify. He simply looked up, calm, silent, unshaken. Moments later, the one who accused him began to stumble, exposed by his own words. Silence had done what no argument could. It reversed the attack. Your goal is not to be understood. Your goal is to be untouchable. Respect grows from composure, not explanation. Silence alone is power, but at the right moment, it ends the battle before it begins. Advancing to the third chapter, picture a table full of noise and ego. The laughter fades, the silverware stills, and then it happens. Someone leans forward and throws a barb your way. You always think you're the smartest one in the room. The words hit like a sting, sharp and public. And for most people, the reaction is instant. A nervous laugh, a rushed denial, a scramble to explain. In that split second, presence collapses. The attack lands not because it's true, but because it provoked you. But now imagine another path, the one few dare to walk. You pause. You don't flinch. You let the silence stretch until it hums like a drawn bowstring. Your eyes remain calm, steady, unreadable. No smile, no anger, no defense. Just stillness. And in that stillness, something begins to shift. The room starts to wonder, why didn't he react? Did that insult mean nothing to him? Or worse, does he know something we don't? Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the power moves. The spotlight that was meant to burn you begins to scorch the one who lit it. This is the unseen art of control. The Stoics understood it well. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. The insult, the tone, the public gaze, none of that is yours to master. But your reaction is. And when you master that, you master the entire moment." Silence, in that sense, is not avoidance. It is strategy. It's the discipline of choosing not to enter the arena built by someone else's insecurity. I remember a scene in a crowded boardroom, a young man mocked for being too ambitious. The words hung heavy, coated in sarcasm. Everyone waited for him to defend himself. But he didn't. He leaned back, quiet, composed. The silence filled the room until the one who mocked him began to stumble, soften, and expose his own discomfort. Without a single word, the young man reclaimed the air. His restraint spoke louder than argument ever could. Power doesn't always come from striking back. Sometimes it comes from letting the other strike themselves. The sharpest blade is no blade at all, only calm, unshaken presence. And from here, we move deeper still, into the kind of silence that no longer protects, but commands. This is where mystery becomes a weapon, and silence becomes the hand that wields it. Entering the fourth chapter, imagine a door at the end of a dark corridor, closed, silent, unmarked. You don't know what waits behind it, and because you don't know, your mind begins to build. It imagines, it exaggerates, it trembles. That is the nature of human fear. We don't fear what we see, we fear what we cannot read, and that is where the power of mystery begins. The more they understand you, the less they fear you. Every word you explain, every detail you offer, strips away the cloak that once made you formidable. But when you stay silent, when you refuse to be fully known, you leave spaces that others cannot resist filling. And when they fill those spaces, they almost always build something larger than life. It's human nature. We overestimate the unknown, and that exaggeration becomes your armor. Marcus Aurelius once wrote that a man should remain unmoved by both praise and blame. Because whether they call you saint or sinner, both labels are chains. The Stoics' answer was simple: say less, reveal little, act only when it serves reason. When you do, your presence grows beyond your words. You become larger than what they can measure. History remembered this lesson well. Think of the quiet strategist in every age, the one who listens more than he speaks. His restraint unsettles the impatient. His calm disarms the loud. Like the silent general before a battle, or the wise leader who answers a storm of questions with one still gaze, these are the ones people follow, not because they shout, but because their silence makes others listen harder. I once knew a leader like that. In meetings, he never rushed to answer. He'd let the room swim in its own uncertainty. People leaned forward, guessing what he might say, what he might decide. That quiet curiosity became authority. He didn't demand respect. He commanded it by holding still while others spilled their noise. Meanwhile, those who explained too much, who exposed every thought, were easily read, easily dismissed. The loudest man in the room rarely holds the longest power. Mystery is power. When you withhold, you are not hiding, you are shaping perception. When you refuse to explain, you are not weak, you are untouchable. Let them wonder. Let them fill in the blanks, because their imagination will always make you greater than your words. And this is where silence transforms once again. No longer a shield, no longer restraint. From here, it becomes the storm itself, slow, invisible, and capable of breaking even the strongest without a sound. At this stage, imagine silence swelling like a storm no one can see. You do nothing, you say nothing, yet the one who accused you begins to unravel. Their words echo into emptiness, their anger hangs with no anchor. And in that hollow space, something strange happens. Their certainty begins to rot. Because silence is unbearable to the insecure. They need reaction to exist. They need your fire to keep their own anger alive. When you do not fight back, you deny them fuel. They came for conflict, but you hand them a mirror instead. And in that reflection, they see what they fear most, themselves. The spotlight they tried to throw on you turns around and burns them instead. This is where the Stoics drew their quiet strength. Epictetus said, "If you wish to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." To the untrained mind, being misunderstood feels like death. To the wise, it's freedom. Because the truth doesn't need to scream to be real. It reveals itself over time, through consistency, through calm. I once watched this unfold in a crowded meeting. A man was accused of arrogance, loudly, publicly, cruelly. The words were sharp, meant to provoke, but he didn't bite. He stayed still. Not a single flicker of defense crossed his face. The silence grew heavy, uncomfortable. The accuser repeated himself, louder, then stumbled. The room began to shift. Whispers turned, faces turned. What began as an attack ended as quiet humiliation. The man who said nothing walked away with all the power. That is the torture of silence. It doesn't crush from the outside, it corrodes from within. It forces the attacker to wrestle with their own noise until they collapse under its weight. Their rage needs you to live. Deny it oxygen, and it dies on its own. Your strength isn't proven by how loudly you argue. It's proven by how little you let the chaos touch you. The Stoics understood this deeply. Your peace is your proof. The more you defend yourself, the more you admit you need defending. The more you remain still, the more the world realizes you never did. So hold your silence. Let it stretch. Let it bite. let it reveal what words never could. Because when you master this, you discover the next weapon, not noise, not anger, but precision. From here, the game shifts, from silence to clarity, from holding ground to flipping the frame. Now imagine standing steady while an accusation cuts the air, sharp and deliberate. Entering the 6th chapter, imagine someone narrowing their eyes at you, a sneer curling at the edge of their mouth. You're manipulative, they say. The air thickens. All eyes turn. Most people panic in that moment. They rush to explain, to soften the words, to defend their name. But not you. You simply tilt the mirror back, calm, deliberate, and say, "Only those who cannot be influenced say that." Suddenly, the blade is no longer in your hand. It's in theirs, and they can feel its edge. This is where true power reveals itself, not in denial, not in defense, but in reframing. Seneca once wrote, "He who is brave is free." Freedom here is not about walking away, it's about refusing to kneel before false judgment. When someone throws a label at you, they expect you to wear it. They want you to panic under the weight of their words. But when you don't, when you calmly place that label back in their hands, they're the ones who must explain it, justify it, live with it. That's the Stoic counter, cold, clear, precise. Epictetus reminded us, no insult can harm unless we consent to it. Reframing is the art of refusing consent. You do not accept their terms. You do not fight on their ground. You shift the battlefield until the aggressor stands where they once thought you stood, exposed. I once saw this play out in a heated discussion. A man was accused of selfishness, loudly, with eyes watching and tension thick in the air. He didn't flinch. He didn't justify. He simply said, "Funny how people call it selfish when they no longer benefit from your choices." The silence that followed was sharp. The accuser blinked, stumbled, and went quiet. The arrow had turned. Without anger, without defense, he made the attacker's words collapse under their own weight. That is the essence of Stoic composure. You don't battle words with words, you let them devour each other. Every accusation is an invitation to play on their field. Decline it. Set your own frame. Make them wrestle with their own intent. When you stop trying to be understood, you begin to be respected. When you stop defending, you start commanding. Remember this, the coldest counter is not noise. It is clarity, delivered like ice. And from here, the arena changes once more. The whispers fade, but the eyes grow sharper. Let's step into the next chapter, into a room full of power, where accusation meets silence under the watchful eyes of a crowd. Advancing to the 7th chapter, picture the air inside a boardroom suddenly turning cold. A senior manager leans forward, his voice sharp enough to slice the stillness. "I think your strategy is reckless." The words fall heavy, echoing through the room. Papers freeze mid-turn. Eyes dart from face to face, all waiting for the response of the man under fire, the CEO. This is the moment where most people lose themselves. They lean forward, rush to defend, scramble to protect their name. But not him. He leaned back, calm, unbothered. The silence stretched, second after second, until it became a blade of its own. You could feel the tension shifting, the confidence of the accuser beginning to fracture under the weight of stillness. Then, with perfect composure, the CEO spoke just one line. "Interesting. Tell us your strategy." That was it. Not a defense, not deflection, an invitation. And instantly the frame flipped. The spotlight moved. The man who had attacked now stood exposed, fumbling for words that wouldn't come. His boldness turned brittle. His argument collapsed under its own weight. Within minutes, the entire room could see what had really happened. The challenge was hollow, and the silence had revealed it. Seneca once wrote, "He who is quick to anger is quick to fall." The same truth applies to those quick to defend. When you rush to explain, you surrender your ground. But when you stay composed, you force your enemy to reveal himself. The Stoics taught that restraint isn't weakness, it's the slow burn of wisdom. True control is not loud, it's quiet, deliberate, anchored. I once saw this mirrored in a classroom far from the polished world of business. A teacher was accused unfairly in front of his students. The room went tense, but he didn't raise his voice. He simply asked, "And what would you have done differently?" The question hung in the air, sharp and patient. The accuser froze, realizing there was no answer. In that stillness, the teacher's authority grew, not because he fought, but because he refused to play the part of the accused. This is the Stoic art of the public ambush. Never meet fire with fire. Let silence do the burning. Let calm expose the chaos. One question, one pause, one steady breath. That's all it takes to turn accusation into collapse. And from here, we carry this same discipline into a different arena, away from the boardroom, into the heart. Because when the attack comes from someone you love, silence must evolve once again, not as defense, but as understanding. Advancing to the 8th chapter, picture a quiet evening that suddenly turns sharp. A single sentence cuts the air. "You don't care about me anymore." It's not shouted, but it lands like steel against your chest. The silence that follows feels like judgment. Most men panic. They rush to explain, to list the moments they tried, the things they gave up, the proof of their love. Words pour out like water on fire, desperate to calm the storm. But in truth, that's when they lose. Because every explanation is surrender. Every justification gives weight to the accusation. The storm is not calmed, it's fed. Marcus Aurelius wrote that a man should not become a puppet to another's passions. That reminder is easy to admire and hard to live. In the heat of emotion, silence feels like cruelty. But in truth, it's the highest form of discipline. When the arrow comes, you do not catch it. You let it fall. You pause. You breathe. You meet their eyes and say only, "That's not how I see it." No anger. No defense, just presence. And in that moment, something subtle shifts. The tempo changes. They begin to hear the tone of their own words. The energy reverses. The mirror turns. You are no longer reacting to their storm. They are adjusting to your calm. Because in any relationship, power isn't about control or dominance. It's about rhythm. And whoever controls the rhythm controls the frame. I've seen this with friends who mastered restraint. One man I knew was accused of being cold, of not caring enough. He didn't argue. He didn't beg to be understood. He simply said, "I hold you differently than you think." His voice was steady. His eyes were clear. The anger that filled the room softened into silence. That one sentence held more truth than 100 apologies ever could. The Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus taught that no one can disturb your peace without your permission. To remain composed is not indifference, it's self-respect. When you choose calm over chaos, you lead without force. You become the steady rhythm others return to when their storms tire them out. Love, like war, has its ambushes, but the one who keeps rhythm wins without battle. The one who stands still commands without words. And from here we advance into the 9th chapter, the coldest move of all. The one that doesn't just quiet the storm, but makes it vanish completely. Disappearance. the art of walking away without a sound. Entering the 9th chapter, imagine silence so complete it becomes a mirror. You've said nothing, done nothing, yet something begins to unravel, not within you, but within them. The air grows heavy. Their mind starts to race. They post more. They gossip louder. They gather allies to keep their anger alive. They throw new accusations into the air, hoping one might pull you back into the fight. But every word, every attempt makes them smaller, more desperate, more exposed. They shout into the void, but the void doesn't echo, and the crowd sees it clearly, one man chasing shadows, the other unmoved. Tell me, who looks stronger? Who looks desperate? Presence in absence is a weapon sharper than any sword. Epictetus once wrote, "If you wish to be invincible, do not enter into combat where you cannot control the field." That is what disappearance truly is, the refusal to fight on ground that isn't yours. It isn't cowardice, it's clarity. When you vanish, you take with you the one thing they can't fight without, your attention. Without it, their drama starves. The fire they built for you dies in their own hands. I once watched this play out between two business rivals. One launched public attacks, emails, meetings, whispers in every corner. The other said nothing. He stayed the course, worked in silence, and built without answering once. Over time, the attacker began to look obsessed, chasing an enemy who wasn't even there. He ranted at shadows while the other man rose higher, silent, focused, untouchable. His disappearance wasn't retreat. It was dominance without a single strike. That's the secret the Stoics understood. You don't win by proving them wrong. You don't win by correcting their lies. You win because they destroy themselves chasing what you withhold. Absence becomes unbearable to them. Stillness becomes a mirror in which their insecurity magnifies until it consumes them. Disappearance is the final act of mastery. It's not about ending the fight. It's about erasing the battlefield entirely. It's walking away so completely that their power collapses in your absence, and from here the silence sharpens into something greater, a quiet arsenal. 3 tools forged not to defend, but to command. As we enter the 10th chapter, picture 3 blades, simple, precise, and capable of cutting deeper than any noise ever could. Moving into the 10th chapter, from the blades of silence, deflection, and precision, we now step toward something greater, something that cannot be seen, only felt. The quiet cultivation of aura, a force heavier than reputation, harder than rumor, and far beyond reach once it's formed. Think of reputation as a painted mask, bright and convincing to the crowd, but fragile beneath its polish. One whisper can smear it, one lie can crack it, one determined enemy can shatter it completely. And when that mask breaks, the man who relied on it is left scrambling to rebuild an image that was never truly his. Reputation is borrowed light. It fades the moment others stop reflecting it back. Aura, on the other hand, is the light that burns from within. It is not painted, it is forged. It doesn't depend on applause or approval. It's born from presence, from discipline, from the refusal to kneel before anyone's opinion. Reputation belongs to the crowd. Aura belongs to you. Marcus Aurelius warned against the slavery of public opinion when he wrote, "We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." Reputation is that slavery, chains disguised as admiration. But aura, that is sovereignty. It's the quiet declaration that says, "I am not yours to define." I once knew a leader who carried this truth like armor. He wasn't warm. He wasn't even well-liked, but he was steady. When he entered a room, conversation slowed. Not because he demanded silence, but because his composure shifted the air itself. People thought twice before challenging him, not out of fear, but out of instinct. His stillness made others aware of their own noise. That was his aura, not charm, not charisma, but gravity, the kind of presence that cannot be manufactured because it isn't performed, it's lived. Seneca wrote, "The soul that is trained and fortified stands firm against fortune's blows." That is aura. It's not the loud confidence of a man trying to be seen. It's the quiet strength of one who no longer needs to prove. Like an oak rooted deep in the earth, its branches may sway, but its trunk does not bow. The storm cannot decide its strength, because its strength lies underground, unseen. Aura doesn't beg to be noticed, but it cannot be ignored. It doesn't chase the crowd, yet the crowd feels its pull. And from here, we advance to the 11th chapter, where power takes on a paradoxical shape. When you no longer seek defense, the world itself begins to defend you. At this stage, the truth of power reveals its paradox. Reputation is fragile glass, aura is tempered steel, and once you've forged it, something remarkable happens. You no longer need to defend yourself, because when your presence is strong enough, others will do it for you. Without your request, without you lifting a single finger. That is the quiet distance between living for their approval and living from your essence. One can be broken overnight. The other makes even your silence untouchable. Now picture this, a crowded hall, an accusation hurled across the room, sharp, deliberate, meant to cut you down. The natural instinct is to react, to fight, to prove, but the harder you fight, the more desperate you look. The louder you argue, the smaller you appear. In trying to save face, you lose it. The crowd sees not your defense, but your dependence. But imagine the opposite. You stay still, calm, unmoved. That stillness bends the air. The weight shifts. Suddenly, it's the accuser who feels naked beneath their own noise. A murmur breaks through the silence. That was uncalled for, someone whispers. Another voice follows. He didn't even respond. And just like that, the tide turns. The crowd that came to judge now begins to defend. The man who said nothing wins the room. Epictetus warned his students, if you seek approval outside yourself, you have already chained your mind. The one who needs to defend reveals dependence. The one who stays silent shows freedom. And paradoxically, that freedom draws others in. They shield the one who doesn't beg. They stand for the one who doesn't plead. I once saw this in a courtroom. A lawyer attacked a witness with words sharp as knives, pressing harder, hoping to provoke a mistake. But the witness stayed still, answering only with calm pauses and steady eyes. Before long, the jury began to shift. Frowns turned toward the lawyer. The witness had said almost nothing, yet his composure said everything. By the end, it wasn't the arguments that won, it was the silence that exposed cruelty. This is the paradox of presence. The less you try to prove your strength, the more undeniable it becomes. You do not shout for respect, you draw it by existing firmly within yourself. And from here, we move to the summit, the final chapter, where silence no longer needs to be chosen, because you've become the kind of person no accusation can touch. Advancing to the 12th chapter, imagine a crowded room where words hang heavy, where accusation meets silence, and something subtle yet powerful begins to shift. You say nothing, you do nothing, yet suddenly the tide turns. The very stillness you hold starts working in your favor. Because when you rush to clear your name, you plant seeds of doubt. But when you refuse, you plant seeds of respect. The crowd feels it first. Their eyes move from you to your accuser. The louder they speak, the weaker they seem. The calmer you remain, the stronger you appear. And before long, you are no longer alone. The crowd itself becomes your shield. They defend you without being asked, drawn instinctively to the composure that your accuser lacks. What could be stronger than having an army rise around you without a single command? Epictetus once taught, "The man who seeks approval has already surrendered his freedom." When you master silence, you stop seeking approval. You no longer live to prove, you live to be. And from that stillness, a different kind of authority emerges. The kind that does not argue, the kind that does not bend. The lesson is simple, but it's not easy. Resist the pull to justify. Hold your frame. Let your presence speak louder than your defense ever could. Because words convince minds, but presence moves souls. And when you reach this level, something profound happens. You no longer need the crowd at all. Their defense becomes irrelevant because your very aura dissolves accusations before they ever touch you. From here, we ascend to the 13th chapter, the summit of control, the place beyond words, beyond defense, where presence itself becomes the answer. Entering the 13th chapter, imagine someone hurling an accusation at you, sharp, precise, meant to pierce. But before it reaches you, it falls away like rain striking stone. It doesn't stick, it doesn't stain, it simply disappears in the stillness of your presence. That is not silence alone. That is something far greater. That is presence itself. Here's where the difference becomes clear. Silence is an action. Presence is a state of being. Silence says, "I choose not to react." Presence says, "I no longer need to." It is the calm gravity of a soul that has trained itself never to explain, never to beg for understanding, never to be ruled by noise. It's not indifference, it's mastery. Marcus Aurelius said, "The soul is dyed by its thoughts." Keep them steady, and your presence cannot be shaken. Accusations lose their aim the moment they meet stillness. I remember a man once attacked viciously in public. Lies spread fast, whispers louder each day. Everyone waited for his defense, but he never spoke. He simply continued his work, measured, unbothered, unshaken. Weeks later, the rumors burned out on their own, and strangely, he stood taller than before, not because he fought, but because he didn't need to. His life itself was his reply. His existence was his proof. Seneca reminded us, the wise man is content with himself. To live this way is to remove every hook others try to set in you. No rumor can drag you. No insult can tether you. No attack can define you. You're not beyond the noise. You make it irrelevant. And when you reach this level, you don't ignore accusations. They simply fail to land. You don't defend yourself. You don't need to. Because your presence is the fortress now, silent, unseen, and beyond reach. True strength is not in defending, but in becoming unshakable. The one who needs no defense holds real power. If this message spoke to you, subscribe for more Stoic wisdom and comment, "Stay still" below. Keep your calm. Your next step toward mastery begins here.